Hello and welcome to the first RFF Podcast. Tonight we will launch a new series where we recap all the week's action from our racing league. This will include our Saturday night weekend league and our midweek leagues. Midweek Div 1 and Div 2, which both run on Wednesday nights. Good evening to everyone that's tuning in. Hope you're well. Without further ado, we will kick off then with the podcast. So last Saturday night saw us head to Silverstone, the home of the British motorsport industry, and we also went to Austria. So at Silverstone we had the 18-minute qualifying session, and then at Austria we had the reverse grid. Tonight we are joined by 4 individuals in the name of, we will use their PSNs to hide identities: Spider, Sir Pegasus, ST Owen and Flicks. So without further ado, let's kick off the podcast. So we will start then with the first race at Silverstone, which saw title contenders ST Owen and Flicks both serve qualifying bans which were given to them from the previous week of racing, which then saw a return to racing as well for myself, Jay Hamilton _44, who stuck it on pole. And we saw Cairo Racing win the race on his debut. So without further ado then, let's bring in Spider. Good evening, Spider. How you doing? Welcome into the first podcast.
Not bad, you alright?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Good. Just getting the nerves out of the way from first ever podcast. So obviously you didn't race yourself last weekend, but You've seen the race results. Obviously Cairo won race 1. With myself and Luke Enright rounding out the podium, and then obviously race 2 we had Flicks, Owen and myself again rounding out the podiums. But let's just get your summary then from the action from the weekend league.
Well, I've seen a bit. I know you were very unlucky in Silverstone. You got caught up in behind a slow-moving vehicle under VSC, and I've also seen how difficult Cairo Racing was to overtake in both tracks. Well, I mean, a teleporting car is never going to be easy to overtake, but again, can't take the win away from him. Again, it just seems like it's the same people at the top always. I mean, you, Owen and Flicks, that's a usual podium. That's a podium I'd expect. Cairo Racing at the top is a bit of a surprise. I've not seen him with that sort of pace before. And was that Luke Enright in Britain as well?
Yeah, Luke Enright rounded out the podium. Yeah, like you say, Cairo Racing's pace at Silverstone. I mean, I've never raced against him, but I didn't think he was as, not to big myself up, but I didn't think he was, had that sort of pace. But he showed some great pace, and in the end, deserved the win. But yeah, Luke Enright, Mr. Consistent, sitting P2 in the standings at the minute.
But Luke's just always there or thereabouts, isn't he?
Yeah, Luke's being very consistent, and he's picking up these points, in the Alpine, lead Alpine driver in the standings, and showing why he's up there with being consistent. But
worth pointing out, Flicks with a comeback drive from the qualifying ban.
Yeah, we'll move on. We'll move on to that later on in the weekend league chat. But yeah, as you say, Flicks and Owen had a good drive as well. But thank you, Spider. We'll move on to Pegasus then, and we will bring up our championship leader, ST Owen. Well, let's talk about Owen, because he had a qualifying ban at Silverstone, and he still delivered a great race. And then at Austria, from the back to the front, just showed why he's leading the championship.
I mean, yeah, with the qualifying ban, he had something to do special with Silverstone being one of them tracks where it is a DRS train. Difficult to overtake, not many spots to overtake, but he did find some places to get up the grid. Only found in P7, which is unfortunate for his championship lead.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, him and his teammate made contact on the opening lap, which resulted in both of them having a moment and losing, I'd say at least, well, in Owen's case, at least 10 seconds. And just think, though, your own teammate, you're fighting for the championship, and you make contact with your own teammate on the opening lap. I mean, you've got to feel a bit...
It's rule number 1. Don't crash with your teammate. Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's it. Teammate makes the dream work, and we know how much Owen loves this game. He puts in over 20 hours a day on F1 2021. So to only have a 24-point lead after 6 rounds, he must be a bit devastated, do you not think?
I have to agree. Luke Enright is right on his tail, Mr. Consistent, as you said.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Welcome, Owen. How are you doing?
Hello, mate. How
Are you
doing,
ready?
mate?
Are you ready for the weekend races coming up? Ready to defend your lead?
I am.
Yeah.
Just getting a few practice stuff in,
A few
as
practice
usual.
days. You know, the usual routine. So, Owen,
Usual routine, mate.
regarding you for the weekend league, then, who was your standout performer from last weekend in the weekend league?
I'd have to say Cairo Racing. Showed great consistency in Silverstone. Obviously, like you said, Jack, it's unfortunate like you had to race with him in that kind of way. But he showed some great pace, really, which we didn't quite expect from him. So well done to him.
No, Cairo Racing did have a very good performance, and for me, a standout driver was Ben Smith. You know, qualifying quite high and consistently picking up points now. I mean, where is he up to now? He's up to 14th in the weekend league standings. So he's picking his way up. Silverstone, he was fighting at the front for a while. So what do you think Ben's found then to go up this next level then and improve his pace?
I think Ben just, we know he's been turning some assists off recently, and I think that's kind of helping him. We know he was running a couple of break assists, and he started to turn them down a bit now, so just making him improve his pace a lot more, and if he keeps, improving as he turns the assists off, so I reckon he could be a really good driver.
Yeah, I completely agree with Owen. Thank you very much for your thoughts on the weekend league. Then we'll move on to Flicks, the last pundit on the podcast. How you doing, Flicks? Welcome in.
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, Flicks, my questions to you are, who do you think underperformed the most last weekend in the weekend league?
All underperformed. I'm going to say Phil. And the reason I'm going to say that, because in Britain he was quite unlucky to get his front wing knocked off. And, he pitted for softs. He gambled for safety car, but in the end it didn't happen. And yeah, he finished quite low down the table, which kind of affected his championship to hold third. And yeah.
Very good, thank you very much. And just one more from you then. Who do you think will be a standout driver from the drivers we've got for this season in the weekend league? Who do you think is going to be the biggest shock to be up there?
I think AJ personally. I mean, he's already 5th in the drivers, and he's doing pretty well consistency-wise. He's only a couple points behind me and Phil, and I reckon if he keeps up, he can potentially get third in the drivers' championship.
Brilliant. And just one more from you. Who was your standout driver from last weekend in the weekend league?
I'm gonna have to say Kara Racing as well. To get that, on his debut, to get that shock win, it just proves it all, really. He's got the pace, even though his internet might be a bit dodgy at times, but he's got the pace.
Tell me about it.
He's got the pace to win, and yeah, quite good performance from him.
Thank you very much, Flicks. So then we'll move on to midweek then, and we will go to our Division 1, which saw Harry take pole position at Spain. And just another quick thing regarding Spain. This also saw our top 3 drivers in Division 1 all qualify within 0.2 of each other. So that was some very close, clean qualifying between the Div 1 boys. But yeah, Harry, after last weekend, picking up some good points. And in Spain he won, and also in France he won. So we'll bring back in Spider. And my question to you, Spider, is what has Harry found that the others seem to be not missing, but maybe are not turning or keeping a close eye on?
I don't think he's found anything, in all honesty. He was rapid in the first few weeks of the season. He stuck it on pole for the very first week of the season, and by quite some distance as well. What it comes down to, though, is he was getting involved in incidents in races, maybe those mistakes. It's probably just that consistency that he's found that's helped him out here. because again he should have won in both Saudi and Bahrain. So yeah, just the consistency really.
And Luke Enright, again, another podium. Guys being super consistent in weekend league and midweek.
Yeah, I think he's recently swapped to a wheel, hasn't he? It seems to be paying off for him. The pace is coming back, and he's got that consistency with it.
Yeah, he's on the pad at the minute. He's using the wheel when he can from time to time, but I know he's on the pad at the minute. But but like you say, he is being. I mean, he qualified 8th at Spain and finished P3, and he finished P4 at France as well. So, like you say, he's being consistent. And for you, who is your standout driver in Division 1 at the minute?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, obviously Harry's got incredible pace. Who else can go in sort of that ilk? I mean, Harry's pace, you know when he's coming up to you. You know he's going to be. He approached you quite a rate of knots. That Shizin, I think he's finding the radar a little bit. Great pace. He got a fastest lap. I know he got caught up in a few incidents. Particularly into turn 1 because that was a very messy turn 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think there is a standout really too much at the moment. It's so tied up at the top.
Nope. Thank you very much, Spider. And we'll move on to Ryan then. Now, Ryan, you had I'm going to say the word pleasure of seeing a bizarre incident behind the safety car at Spain. Would you like to elaborate on that for us, please?
So the first safety car had come out, Harry leading by quite. He drove well. Myself and Owen had fallen down the order a little bit. And just before the safety car had come in, Owen is warming his tyres up and unfortunately spins at the hairpin, which sees him at the back of the grid on the safety car restart.
So, back at the grid at safety car restart, and in the end, he managed to get himself back up to P2. So that was a great recovery drive from Messier. What do you think helped him then from the back of the grid back to P2?
You can't take it away from him. He's an outstanding driver. He's rapid. He's recently turned traction control completely off. So kudos to him, because the transition from medium to off can sometimes be quite treacherous and quite hard to get used to. And his throttle management is actually quite surprising to me, as I know him as only using medium. So to go to off in such a short amount of time in league races, it is quite good to see.
And we'll just get a special mention to you, to you for fastest lap. You did complete 3 pit stops as well, so you did win the most pit stops at Spain. What do you think went wrong for you then at Spain?
I was just unfortunate to get caught up in a silly incident. I hit the brakes a little too late and ran into the back of a Haas, which saw me with wing damage and having to do the extra pit stop.
That's unfortunate, mate. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you in Div 2. So now to ST Owen. And Owen, we've just sung your praises there, so I hope you like what we said. We'll move on and talk about, though, Shaz, who finished P5 from 13th on the grid. What do you think he did in the Haas then to go from 13th to 5th?
I mean, overall, he's a very good driver, really. I mean, his overtaking quality is superb. He knows when to overtake at the right places. He knows when there's a gap and you should go for it. He knows when it's too late and you should wait. I mean, if you have a look at the other drivers in Division 1, some of us can be a little bit impatient. But what I think Shaz does well, he is very patient with us and he waits for us to make a slight mistake and he'll just paint on it really quick and he'll just get past us.
Yeah, we also saw Victor Saltano and Keel make their debuts in Div 1. Sum up their first week then. I see Victor obviously had a DNF at Spain, but Keel managed to get a P7 in qualifying and a P9 in race 1. Victor obviously DNF'd race 2 again. Oh, sorry, no, that's the wrong one. Victor finished P6 in race 2, and Kiel, well, finished 2 laps down. So a mixed week combined for them. One had a good Spain, one had a good France. But overall, what was your take on their debuts?
Victor was he did really well in qualifying. He was quite up there, but he's very unlucky really on the first lap. He spins it at I think it's turn 6 or 7 before the second main straight. Just got a bit throttle heavy. He spins it there really. I mean, it's quite unlucky. I had a very nice battle with him in France. He kept me behind for about 3 laps, which hampered me to get P2 in France. But yeah, he's a very quick driver when he wants to be. His ERS management is surprisingly very good. As for Keel, I mean, I haven't raced him. I didn't get a chance to, but from what I've seen, he's a very good, consistent driver, really. I mean, he knows where to place the car when needs to be, from what I saw. His defensive skills are very good. I reckon if he keeps this up and he gets his pace, I reckon he could be a potential podiums and getting some wins.
Thank you very much, Aaron. And we'll move on to Flix then, and we'll talk about our 2 elite drivers in Div 1 then. So in Spain, obviously, Jakey Boy finished a P4 and Kev finished P6. Now, both of these guys are the only 2 in Div 1 to run elite. Now, Flix, what do you think made them have such good races at Spain?
I think at the end of the day, it's just consistency and getting the strategy right. You know, they got the strategy right. Safety car, they didn't get into any issues with any other drivers. They were very clean. At the end of the day, they capitalised on people's mistakes, and that made them work their way to the top. And Jake Boy getting P4 and Kev getting P6. And they both got, I think, no penalties. So Kev was able to make up a place on AJ on the final lap because of the penalties. And yeah, I think they both just showed really good consistency.
Now let's talk about France. And France is a DRS train, as we all know. If you get stuck in a DRS train, you struggle to overtake. But let's talk about Harry again then. It's kind of hard or rude not to as well. He started last at France and he came through and won the race. What do you think was the difference between Harry and Sir Pegasus, who came second?
You know, I think Harry is just miles ahead of us in terms of pace. You know, you tried to battle him and he's past you and you just can't keep up with him no matter how much ERS you use. You know, he's rapid. He can just go and he gains so much time. And yeah, Harry's just got the pace, he's got the awareness, he's got everything that a driver needs to do, and that's why he was able to cut through the field and win by such a margin.
Thank you very much, Flix. So then we will move on to our midweek Div 2, which also saw our drivers take to Spain and France. The same format as Div 1, 18-minute qualifying for race 1 and reverse grid for race 2. Now, the starting grid for France in Div 2 was J Hamilton _44, Trilogy Effects, and Roles P3. Now, these drivers finished 1, 2, and 3. So, Spider, my question to you is, what do you think made these drivers maintain their positions?
Well, they're just quick. Simple answer is they're just quicker than the rest, aren't they, in that track? I mean, you got to look at J Hamilton _44, who consistently fastest lap. This time by half a second. In both the British Grand Prix and Victor took it off you in France, but again you still won the race by a good second and a half. So it just comes down to the pace differential, really. When 3 people are comfortable on the track, consistently can keep that pace going. And Britain isn't the easiest of tracks either, and it can be difficult to overtake at times. It's not the easiest to follow 2 Maggots and Beckett's.
With midweek, mate, is Spain and France.
Oh, Spain and France. Was I looking at the wrong ones?
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry.
Spain and France. Of course it was. I was looking at the Spanish Grand Prix results. I just saw Ish at the end and I thought British. No, again, Spain's even harder to overtake than the others. Um, it's tricky, that third sector, especially that last chicane onto the straight. So if the three fastest set in the right order, they're going to finish in that order. You have to be. I think you have to have a real pace advantage over the car ahead to get close and perform that overtake, even with the really long straights.
Thank you very much, Spider. So it's Pegasus then. Well, we're going to give Cops Beckett a special mention. Started 11th at Spain and finished P6, and then it was just disaster for him at France after, well, what can only be described as the innocent party in an ill victim incident. But yeah, what do you think helped Cop Beckett's then finish P6 in Spain?
A special mention to Cops Beckett, because I'm pretty sure he also runs Elite in Division 2, so that is a big round of applause to him. And he also runs Cockpit View, which could also be a little harder to what the usual F1 player usually uses. But to overtake, how many cars is that? 11 to P6?
Yeah, 6, 7.
7 cars in France. It's outstanding from a driver. His fastest lap isn't to the top range, so he hasn't got the pace advantage to the faster guys, but to know where to overtake and where to defend is where it counts on the racetrack.
Yeah, and we've got to give a special mention to Rolders then. He's not shown this pace so far yet in the RFF League, and then to get a podium, and consistent podium after qualifying P3 as well.
Yeah, you can't take it away from him. He's qualified P3 in Spain and sticks it on the podium at the end of the race.
Thank you very much, Ryan. So STO in them, we'll go to Owen. And yeah, looking at them race results in Div 2, break it down for us. Standout performers.
Standout performance, really, I've got to say, would be it's pretty tricky, really. I mean, obviously, Rolitz getting himself, well, good pace from him, really. But I'd say it'd have to go to, probably have to say yourself, Jack, really. Last to first in France. I mean, you showed great pace, really. I mean, what can I say? Last, straight to first, good strategy, great overtakes on people. You just did it all. But for Spain, I reckon Cops Beckett's got himself up there, along with Phil and Victor, made up some places. But yeah, I've got to go with yourself, Jack, really. Consistent overall, winning both races. There's a couple of special mentions. James as well, Colour GFX, did really well, maintaining P2 in France. And the same really for Ben Smith in France as well, getting himself up there on the podium, beating Victor, which is a very fast driver, and he can be quick, as shown by him getting fastest lap.
Thank you very much, Owen. Now, we'll move on to Flicks. And my next question was about Ben Smith. So that's kind of fitting that Owen has left us on that. What do you think then, Flicks, has seen Ben Smith pick up a lot of pace and get a podium at France? You know, he's gone from being one of probably, he won't mind me saying this as well, one of the regular slower drivers to now being able to pick up points and the podium. So he keeps chipping away at it and making this progress. What do you think's Ben's secret then to gradually pick himself up? I mean, he's up to 11th now in the driver's standings, and the only way I can see him going at the minute is up. So what do you think's helping Ben?
Yeah, I think someone said this before, but you know, turning off assists, even if you don't think it really does help you. You know, brake assist, no brake assist, you gain so much time. traction as well. If you start like narrowing it down to medium or even those you see, it helps you a lot. And generally other assists, in the Spanish Grand Prix, he got the second fastest lap, although he finished 7th. And then in the French Grand Prix, he managed to get a podium from P5, so that's really impressive from him. But yeah, assists play a big part in why he's getting faster. And I hope to see him keep battling for hopefully wins and podiums.
And whilst we're on it, we've got to give a bit of a charismation message to Victor. Obviously, he was on course to win the France GP, but obviously had that 5 seconds penalty that he got in the pit lane. What words of advice do you have to Victor to keep his head up and keep going?
I think that, he was thinking to himself, he would have won if he didn't have that penalty, and he got fastest lap in the French Grand Prix as well. So my advice to him, just keep your head up, and he started 8th. So it shows that he can win from so many places back, and if he didn't have that penalty, he would have won that race. So if he keeps his head up and keeps it going, he finishes consistently as well, got 4th in Spain and 4th in France. So if he keeps this up, he'll be battling for the championship.
Thank you very much, Flex. Now then, back to you, Spider. Then obviously we've got this week, midweek coming up, and then we've got the break. Who are your early season favourites then for Division 1 and Division 2 championships, respectively?
Well, Division 2, I can't see anyone other than Jay Hamilton winning. Massively in the championship already and getting such a pace advantage over the rest. Division 1, I think the main contenders really are, I think Flix can get up there still, but Owen and Harry I think will be the ones battling. While I don't think Owen can match Harry for pure pace, he does seem to have more consistency, and that could be key come the end of the year.
Thank you very much, Spider. And obviously, Pegasus, we'll move on to you. Same question applies.
So for Division 1, I think Harry does have a very nice lead right now. It's a big cushion for him, leading the championship by that stature. But as we do know, Owen is known for clawing back. He does have the pace and he does have the qualifying pace to put it on pole. So I wouldn't count him out just yet to win this championship. Even Flix, we've seen him win a championship in RFF. Can he do it again?
I mean, you look below Owen and you've got Flix on 156, and then you've got yourself in P8 on 102. Obviously, you've missed a race. But obviously, our point system's different to everyone else's, so that's 54 points. That can change in a week. 3rd to 8th in Div 1 is just really close at the minute.
It is. Even if you win both races, that's 80 points for yourself, and that could change from last to first in these standings.
So you see Harry then as a year season Fraser as well? Then?
I can see Harry winning this championship for Division 1, yes. And then for Division 2, as you can see, the J Hamilton 44 does have a point lead that is over 100 right now. If that changes, we don't know, but I can't see anyone catching him right now.
And obviously then we'll do the same question again. You've got from P2 to P10, realistically, 60 points between them. As we said for Div 1, anyone within them places could finish anywhere. It's really close in certain parts of Div 2. So how do you see that going for the next week and then the second half of the season after the week break?
Well, as we've seen Victor in the Ferrari, he does have the pace to win races, so I think if he has a good week, he could put himself in P2 and maybe even in contention to catch Jay Hamilton.
Thank you very much, Pegasus. Then we'll move on to Owen. Obviously, you've caught the memo what we're doing right now. So Div 1 and Div 2, let us know your thoughts, mate.
I've got to go with Harry for Div 1. Outstanding pace, really putting up a good fight. It's giving me confidence to push harder to try and beat him more. But if you try and push more, you can see silly mistakes coming, like myself in Spain, spinning under the safety car. But yeah, I've got to go with Harry for Div 1. Div 2, Jay Hamilton is massive lead now, honestly, in the championship standings. I mean, I can't see him lose now. If he keeps up his consistency across the rest of these races, he's just going to fly away with the championship, really.
So anyone in Div 1 and Div 2 that you think is, well, potentially underperforming at the minute in terms of points?
Underperforming in Div 1. Now, that's quite a hard question, really, because I think a lot of people here in Division 1 can do better than they have. I mean, if you have a look at the championship standings currently, I mean, Luke Emright, P6 in the standings at the minute. I mean, he should be up there with Flix and Kev, really. But I understand he has missed a couple of races, so I trust if he does carry on with this consistency, getting podiums and stuff, he will get these points back and get himself up there in the championship. For Div 2, in other words, I think James, really. College GFX. I mean, he's currently P7 in the standings. I mean, I've raced James a couple of times, and he's a very fast driver on his day. It's just all about consistency, really. And if he wants to be up there fighting for wins and podiums all the times, he needs to start being a bit more consistent, really. And, just fighting with a lot more people.
Thank you very much, Aaron. And then Felix, last but no means least, favourite for Div 1, favourite for Div 2, same question as Owen, really. Who do you think's performing and who do you think's not?
Div 2, 10th from 2nd, it's all to play for, really. As you said, one race could change the entire points, like Blaine, who's currently in 10th, about 60 points behind guy in 2nd. That could easily change in a race and he could easily be up there. But I think the person who's performing well in Div 2, I've got to give it to Roles, Before, no offence but anything, but he wasn't really up there challenging for anything. But now in Div 2, he's third in the drivers and 1 point behind 2nd. He's got the chance to become 2nd, and yeah, hopefully he holds on to that. And underperforming, I've got to say, in points wise, I've got to say Ben Smith. He is improving, I'll give him that, and hopefully he starts to claw back a load of points and hopefully get into the fight for P2 in the drivers. And for Div 1 performing, I'll give it to Kev because, pretty sure it's his first season and, he's already 4th with 134 points and elite as well, which is really hard to do that. So credit to him for 4th. And underperforming, probably Lewis Furtado, because he was quite fast, really good person to battle against. I think he has missed a couple of races, but he's 9th on 101 points. I think he can do better than that.
Brilliant, thank you, Felix. And just before we finish with you, Rollers has said a message and said thank you for the kind words, Felix. So we will move on then and quickly have a rundown then of the weekend league races that are happening this weekend. Well, this weekend, tomorrow. So tomorrow sees us do round 7 and 8 at Hungary and Russia. Obviously qualifying at Russia, reverse grid at Hungary. Spider, who do you see as an early favourite then for Hungary pole position race win and then a potential good performance at Russia?
So, well, I think we qualifying at Russia, did you say?
Qualifying at Hungary.
Qualifying at Hungary, that's good because Hungary will be very difficult to overtake on. I think obviously pole position's key at Hungary. It's such a tight track. I think Jay Hamilton will probably end up on pole. He's got the pace at the moment. He seems in form. He's got the consistency. But I think you'll also get the safety cars throwing up all kinds of issues across that on that track because again it's so tight. There's going to be incidents. It's not the easiest track. as we saw in real life with the red flag. So it'll certainly be an interesting race.
Yeah, let's hope nobody does a Bottas into turn one. If you're watching, Phil, you know what to do. Right, Pegasus, we'll move on to you. As we said, Hungary, it's all about qualifying, but Russia, reverse grid, the DRS effect at Russia, that's going to be an interesting one, seeing the drivers who predominantly will be quicker because they're starting at the back trying to come through the field. So how do you see Hungary and Russia going this weekend?
I can see Hungary going either of three ways. Either that being ST Owen taking a win, Jay Hamilton taking a win, or Flicks taking a win, because it is notoriously difficult to overtake at that track. So if you get pole position, you are on the front running seat to take that win. Although at Russia, with the faster guys being at the back, it is, in my opinion, better to be at the back because of the slipstream and the huge DRS zone just before turn one. So you can make up 2, maybe 3 positions just before you get to turn one.
Thank you very much, Pegasus. Oh, and then we'll move on to you. Obviously, you are our current weekend league drivers standings leader. Obviously, you're looking to make up after losing out last season to Flicks by 2 points in the standings. Sorry to bring that up again. But yeah, same question. How do you see this weekend's racing going? Who do you think is going to stand out, and who do you think possibly that towards the front could have a difficult weekend?
I personally think Flicks might have a difficult weekend because we know he's just switched over to wheel and we know he's getting used to it, but Hungary's one of them really challenging tracks really when you get yourself onto wheel. I mean, if his qualifying pace around there is good, I mean, I reckon it'd be okay. But if he has a bad qualifying and it starts around P5, P6, P7, I reckon he'll struggle a bit really with the nature of this track being so tight and narrow. It's very hard to overtake, and if he wants to do well, he's going to have to get a good strategy call right. For Russia, obviously, we know that it's a big track, massive straights, DRS trains everywhere. It depends, really. I mean, we all have the same shot from the back of the grid, really. I mean, if unfortunately one of the faster drivers retires or DNS for whatever reason in Hungary, we could see that driver potentially start and fly away the field for Russia. And that means the faster drivers at the back will have to put in a shift in and catch him on, really.
Thank you very much, Owen. So, Flicks, then, we'll move on to you. You've just obviously listened to what Owen's had to say. I won't ask you a question specifically, but do you have a response to Owen? It feels to me like the mind games have started. Obviously, you're 100 points behind him at the minute, but it feels to me like he's feeling the pressure.
You know, obviously Owen's just switched to no traction control, so obviously he's going to be a bit off his usual pace. But just respond to Owen. You know, I think I've said this enough times. I love Hungary. I just love the flow of the track. Even though you can't overtake, my quali pace is, my opinion, quite strong, but don't think it's strong enough to put it on the front row or maybe top 4 at best. Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Owen. I think I'm going to struggle a bit to get used to the track. But yeah, Russia, you know, it's carnage at turn 1. You know, it's got some cars go 3 wide, some people take the runoff area, and after that, it's just the back runners are going to struggle to get through the field. And if you might DNF, you might start first. The front runners might get away.
Thank you very much, Flicks. So I'm going to ask a question here now to Spider and Pegasus. Obviously, we've got a new driver for this season playing Formula 1, racing in our weekend league under the name of Tinker Tailor 04. He's had a difficult start to the championship, and I think that's putting it politely. What advice would you have to him to improve? Because we've seen that on 5 lappers, he's got the pace, you know. He can put in good lap times. It's just about finding that rhythm, consistency. So what advice would you have for him?
I just think he just needs to relax. Um, he's not done it. He's not really done himself justice so far. And I mean, it's not always been his own fault. Like with the glitch in Australia, where he couldn't pit and kills half the pit crews. Um, but no, it's just relaxing. I get the impression he's feeling quite nervous about it. He doesn't need to. It's only a game at the end of the day. If he just chills, relaxes, he'll get his pace up.
He's feeling the pressure from Toto and his teammate. That's the impression coming out of Mercedes, I understand.
Well, as long as he ignores what his brother says, he should be all right.
That's brilliant. And Peggy, final one from you, mate.
In the 3 weeks of Weekend League, he has had 3 different teammates of yourself, myself, and Spider, and all 3 of us have seen him at the back of the grid every race. I just think he does need to relax, not to be too aggressive. Throttle management is a thing that you need to manage. So spinning, it needs to be toned down slightly, and not to kill the pit crew.
Yes, one word of advice from me, Alfie, is if you keep taking out the mechanics, you'll have none left. But there we go then. That's a wrap then for the first RFF podcast. Thank you to all the guys who've come on tonight and took part in it. Obviously, we're all quite nervous to get this underway, and I think we've all done ourselves justice and spoke very well. I think all 4 of them that have joined me tonight have spoken well. I'm going to do quickly, before we end the podcast, I'm going to do who I think is going to win Div 1, Div 2, and the Weekend League at the minute, as we are entering. I say win. That's my early season predictions for the championships. I'm going to go with Owen for Div 1. I honestly think that when he cracks his no traction, and with Harry's mistakes at times, I think he'll swing that back his way. I mean, one good week for Owen and a bad week for Harry, and that gap shrinks massively. Flix is hanging in there as well at the minute, but we'll see. And I think the biggest dropper in Div 1 will be Spudster, and no disrespect to him, towards the end of the season. Div 2, now, yeah, I don't like talking about myself, but I've got a nice lead. I think Rollers is performing well. I think for me, the biggest underperformer is my teammate. He won't mind me saying this either, but he's not had the best start to the season. Obviously, he's not 165 points behind me normally, but yeah, that's what that is. And Greg, for me, will be the biggest mover, down in 15th at the minute on 34 points. We know Greg's got pace and he'll pick it up. Going on to the Weekend League, again, for this one, with people that have missed races and stuff, I can only see one winner, and that's Owen for the Weekend League, as we approach the halfway season in that as well. Biggest gainer for me, going forward, that's a difficult one really, because I don't see anyone in the bottom half really making big movements. Maybe Cairo racing, maybe Ben Smith, depends who races. Probably the biggest drop off for me in the Weekend League is probably going to be Phil. Don't see him finishing 3rd in the standings. I see him dropping down a few places. Still top 10, but I do think there's a few faster drivers that are below him in the standings. But yeah, that's a wrap from me. I hope you have enjoyed the first RFF podcast. Thank you to all 4 of these gentlemen that have joined me tonight. Obviously, this weekend sees us take part in our round 7 and 8, Hungary and can't get my words out right now, Russia. And obviously next week sees midweek go to Canada and USA for rounds 9 and 10 before the midweek break the week after. So we'll do another podcast next week at 9 o'clock Friday evening. Until then, thank you very much for tuning in. Goodbye.